Hey, thanks for tuning in to The Management Game. We're your hosts, Vikki Brown and Suzanne Ferris. Intrapersonal communication. For me, that means you have some internal talk with yourself that helps you define who you are, that speaks to your self-awareness, that helps you plan how you're going to approach situations, relationships. It's kind of a pre-work to whatever it is you're attempting to do. That's what I mean by intrapersonal.
Is it always positive?
No, not at all.
No, because I was just thinking that it could also be telling yourself you be strong, be authoritative, tell them what you want them to know, and really kind of counterintuitive of being a servant leader or some of the other types of leadership that we've talked about.
I don't know that I quite get that.
Isn't that interpersonal too?
Intrapersonal.
Well, give me some examples of what you were thinking.
Yeah, I talk to clients about this when I talk about how they show up. Is one example. I'm going to go in and I've got to hold this meeting, and I have an employee that I know is going to be difficult and is going to give me pushback. So the intrapersonal conversation could be something like, okay, Vikki, how are you going to handle so-and-so? I know when he or she gives me that look, I'm going to take a deep breath, right?
So it's coaching yourself.
Yeah, and in order to coach, you have to have these conversations. Yeah, it is coaching yourself. I'll give you an example here. Let's say that something has happened in the house and I'm upset about it or I'm frustrated about it. And I think it's something you've done, right? Well, one of the reasons I believe that in all these years we've never had a fight is because I then at the moment stop and talk to myself. And I go, what's bothering me about this? And the next question is, what's my part in it? Oh, all right, then I just need to shut up and go away because...
Or I still need to talk about it, but I'm not going to talk about it in my initial accusing kind of way.
I'm going to
talk about it as something
right.
we need to resolve together,
right.
Because I had a part in it, you had a part in it.
Or I'm going to make sure I use I statements. I guess it's what we used to refer to as processing. And maybe it's the same thing, but it is self-talk, it is self-coaching. It is a way to increase self-awareness so that I'm making the best choices of how to handle a situation. So I'm thinking that the conversation has to start within.
I think it starts even before that, Vikki, because you have to consciously stop and not immediately react.
Okay.
But you have to stop and say, I want to think about this. I need to do some self-coaching, and you may not consciously say that kind of words, but it is a pause that you take on purpose.
So how does that connect with the communication part of that?
Well, I mean, one thing I'm thinking of is, as we're talking, is a component of feedback, which is a form of communication.
Okay,
right?
Yeah.
One of the first things when you read about giving good feedback is asking yourself, what do I want to get out of this feedback? Why am I providing this feedback? What is it about what just happened that makes me think I need to give feedback? So it's asking yourself all of those kind of coaching questions. And that helps you to frame your feedback in a way that you continue to own it, but you're providing valuable insight to somebody else.
But in this case, you're doing it with yourself.
But you're doing that introspective stuff first. Just like before you accuse somebody of sabotaging your workspace or not cleaning up the kitchen after dinner, whatever the home thing might be, you think about, like you said, what was my part in this? Why am I upset?
Okay.
And it's kind of getting clear in your head, not only what is my purpose, which is kind of the underlying question and feedback, but also what's the right way to approach this?
So it is sort of that pre-planning before you go into a situation. It's making sure that you have all the I's dotted, all the T's crossed. What is the situation? What is my part? What do I want for myself? What do I want for the stakeholders? So that you are very clear, but it's all internally before you start doing this with someone else.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And it is helping you move from fight or flight, that emotional part, so that you're logically thinking through what you want to say instead of just lashing out. I have a phrase that I've used many, many times with managers around talking to employees. And that is, forget the ASAP acronym, as soon as possible.
Right.
Substitute ASAR, as soon as you're ready. When you've thought it through, when you're no longer angry about the situation, but you are now in control of your emotions around the situation. EQ again.
Right. So that becomes the basis or the rationale for the intrapersonal communication. Yeah. You start there to get you ready to move to the interpersonal relationship
and choose,
or communication.
And choose what kind of communication you want to have.
Okay.
Is this situation best resolved with a direct, stop doing this kind of interplay?
Right.
Or is it an iterative kind of a discussion, where, tell me what you were thinking when this happened. Let me tell you what I perceived. And it goes back and forth. Or is it feedback?
Okay.
Or is it, some other kind of communication technique? So that gives you the it's the gate that opens all of the other doors.
Okay. And when you were talking about that, it just dawned on me the difference between the rational and the emotional in asking the same question. And what immediately snapped into my mind was, tell me what you were thinking, as opposed to, what the hell were you thinking? Right?
Yep.
It's the same question,
yep.
But one is pure emotion and the other is, okay, I really want to understand so that we can work this out. And the other is, you were so wrong.
Yeah, and I'm so right,
Okay.
Yeah, clear example of the way you communicate makes a big difference in how your communication is perceived.
So what you're going to do in the intrapersonal portion of this is, I really need to understand where this came from. So which way am I going to ask these questions? Yeah. Okay, I'm really ticked off right now. I don't want to go with what the hell were you thinking? Right. So, okay, pull it back.
So that's why I say as soon as you're ready.
Okay.
When you have thought it through, when you have gained some perspective on yourself. Why is this such a big deal to me?
Okay.
When you have thought about the person and how they receive different kinds of feedback and what's the right way to talk to that person versus somebody else on your team. Yeah, it's a time to pause and be intra.
So that's our show for today. Thanks for listening. I'm Vikki Brown.
And I'm Suzanne Ferris.
And you've been listening to The Management Game.